All right, this is Infosec Decoded number 89 with Cypherpunks. And we're starting with Kaitlyn, who has weed.
I do actually. So the reason I want to bring this up is because this explains so much about Windows. I did not understand Windows until I read this article.
Windows.
So yeah, so the MJUS, the Marijuana Movement Magazine type website, has an article written by no, I do not want marijuana in my inbox every day. Written by Kyle Yeager, talking about how 1/3 of programmers use marijuana while working, and they say that it makes them more creative and it makes their program so much better. And if we just smoke and get high while we program, everything will be so much better. And apparently, yeah, like 1/3 of programmers are doing this every day on the job. And like I said, now Windows makes so much sense.
You know, I'm old enough to have lived through the early days of this crap in like the 67, 68, when they said LSD made them creative.
Yes.
And I wonder if they should try that.
I bet you there's a bunch of programmers. I mean, like I know myself, like I need my caffeine, but I'm also a heavy sleeper. I mean, I can sleep through everything. If I'm not caffeinated, I can't get anything done. So I understand the need for a little pick me up or whatever, but getting high while programming,
I know.
Like, of course, Windows is always changing. Like they have to change the start button every time. They have to change the interface and make things like the most convoluted way possible. Because of course, if you're
I would imagine that a huge corporation like Microsoft no longer lets you do this. It's typically a startup thing when they have alcohol in the job and this frat boy thing. And once you become a real corporation, you have to knock that off, I would think.
I doubt it. I seriously doubt they can stop people from going out in their lunch break and smoking a joint. I mean, they're not going to do it in the office unless they're working from home.
Well, I would say once you get a serious contract with other corporations, especially with the government and the military, they'll actually expect you to have drug tests and stuff. I don't know. I
don't think the military drug tests Microsoft employees. That's
probably
silly.
not. Yeah, they have.
Yes, people, and that would explain why the software put out by the government is just kind of no nonsense. It makes sense. You know, like you go to CISA's GitHub page, it's all like, here's a scanner for log4j, and it's just a scanner for log4j, nothing else. Like it just makes sense and it works. And then you have. Oh, go on.
When I started teaching hacking, I was really horrified how many of my students refused to get jobs I set up for them because they said, oh no, that's a government job. I'd have to quit smoking pot. And that was a deal breaker for them. Yes. A lot of my students. And I'm thinking, dude, it's not that important. Is it really that important? They said, yes, it's really that important.
A lot of people just love their weed.
I really do.
Yes, I don't get it. I've never smoked myself. So that would explain why I don't get it. But
yeah. Well,
anyway, there you go. Windows in a nutshell.
Well, I guess so. All right.
If you're like, why were they high when they programmed this? The answer is yes. Probably so.
I've often had that feeling, actually.
Yes.
All right. And so Irvin's got a mouse.
A mouse that will also have storage, like an actual SSD.
Why would you want to store anything in a mouse?
Because it's more portable.
So you have, instead of carrying around a USB thumb drive, you have a thumb drive built into your mouse. Is it somehow useful? Does it make gameplay better or something?
Yeah, that's the point of it, is so that you bring your games with you.
Oh, your whole game is in the mouse. Well, okay, I guess.
I mean, it reminds me of the old systems where they had the keyboard and the computer built into it, the same unit, like the Commodore 64.
Or the Raspberry Pi 400.
Or the Raspberry Pi, which was, again, based on those old computers. But I mean, you could totally do that with a mouse. Just take your mouse with you. Now you have your Steam library. You know, you can also get HDMI outputs from your mouse. I mean, go for it. I mean,
I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw this thing a while ago and I didn't realize that there was a cosmic explosion, a record-breaking cosmic explosion. But other people say it was just a Russian abandoned rocket tube sailing by reflecting stuff. And this is an issue I hadn't thought of. It's getting harder to do astronomy because of all the junk floating around. Though the junk is going to flow through and you're not going to know whether that star flickered or that was junk. So they're still arguing about whether it was junk or not, or an extraordinarily bright burst of X-ray light for no apparent reason, which would be exciting if it isn't just a piece of junk reflecting stuff. That's a problem. And all right, let's go back to Kaitlyn, who has the web.
The web is here. So James Webb. So the last time we had our podcast, that was on James Webb launch eve. And I'm happy to announce, according to Science Daily, that the launch was a success. Over at 7:20 a.m. Universal Standard Time, there was a launch of the Ariane 5 rocket from French Guyana. I probably mispronounced that, over in South America. It was great because they did the countdown in French, like tres, deux, you know, and they counted down in French. And it was great. Anyway, so it launched, everything went fine. There hasn't been any technical issue. The 300 plus points of failure have not failed, so that's excellent. I noticed today that the Deep Space Network is trained on JST, the James Webb Telescope, JWT. So they're starting to get deep space, the DSN transmissions from that, as well as amateurs have been getting telemetry from the James Webb Telescope 2 in, I think, around 2.2 gigahertz is its transmitting frequency. It's just telemetry data, so it's just, you know, floating point numbers and stuff like that. But everything is going well. It is on its way out to the L2 Lagrange point, which is about over like 1 million kilometers away from Earth. It's behind the moon. So it's further away than the moon. It's going to sit there and then start taking pictures for the next decade or so in infrared. So everything is great.
Well, I was reading about it. And they said they deployed the solar panels and they worked, but they haven't deployed the shield yet, which is the big thing that might fail.
Right.
And also they said, which I was surprised at, they said they did the first 2 of 3 course correction burns. And they said one thing about it is it cannot flip around to slow down because that would expose the cold part to the sun. So it can only go faster and faster. So apparently the Lagrange point is going to catch it, even though it's zooming in fast, and it will like catch it like a glove.
Pretty much. Yep.
That's pretty awesome. I've never heard of that, where you're like rocketing somewhere and you don't bother to slow down.
Well, I mean, it is in orbit around Earth. So when it gets to the Lagrange point, it's kind of going to be slowing down on its own.
But it's rocketing, it's speeding up, and it's going to have to keep all that momentum, I guess.
I mean, it is, but it's going to fall back. So I guess around the sun, essentially.
It's going to wobble around the Lagrange point.
Yep.
It's not, well, that's all right. I'm sure they know what they're doing, but that seems a little screwy to me. Okay.
The problem is that with the Lagrange points, you're talking about n objects gravity. There's a specific term, I'm forgetting it right now.
I know the n-body problem. I know
the n-body problem. Yeah. So you're not just talking about like when you do orbits with like 1 or 2 bodies. Well, you need at least 2 bodies. You know, it's very simple. You get an ellipse. When you start talking about the moon and the sun and the Earth, orbits get very quirky very very quickly, and that's where the Lagrange points come in. So.
Well, sure. What's surprising to me is that it's not going to be holding still for taking pictures. It's going to be wobbling around, and I guess they don't care.
Well, it's going to be wobbling around a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, but keep in mind, its wobble is so small on the grand scale of the universe that yes, technically it's moving. I mean, not only is it wobbling, it's orbiting the sun. Well, it's not orbiting Earth, but it's orbiting the sun, and the sun is, you know, orbiting the Milky Way galaxy at thousands and thousands of kilometers per second, you know, just ridiculous speeds. All that does not matter in the grand scale of the universe, where it's looking out at the, you know, furthest reaches of the observable universe, which.
Okay, as long as it's not wobbling an angle.
And it has reaction wheels.
Okay, good. Gyroscopes or something. Okay.
Right. So it's not going to be spinning.
That's good, because that would be bad.
Spinning would be bad.
Okay.
It has thrusters and reaction wheels, and it's actually going to have to burn its fuel to keep its rotation in check over time. So it does have a limited lifespan. So it is only going to be like a 10-year mission. You know, like the Enterprise was 5 years. You know, James Webb is going to be like 10 years, and then it'll just run out of fuel, and we'll have a nice little monument out in the L2 Lagrange point.
Well, and in general, NASA missions seem to live like 3 or 4 times their expected lifetime typically.
Yeah. Except that in this case, though, I mean, they will try to extend it as long as possible. but there is a finite lifespan. Like you can't put more fuel in there after it's done.
All right. All right. And Linux has got, I mean, Irvin has got Linux security.
Yes. People are once again saying that Linux is everywhere. I think the running gag now is this is the year of the Linux desktop.
Well, Linux is kind of everywhere. They're right. Yeah.
And it
Linux-
is the year of the Linux desktop. I mean, 2022 is when the Linux is going to pretty much take over the desktop because Windows 11 was such a failure. So
Well,
we'll see. We'll
Unix
see.
has taken over pretty much everything. Not so much Linux, but Unix. But anyway.
Yeah, you know what I have been hearing is for 2022, the trend is to go cloud native.
Right.
Stop
Where you're using
having
virtual desktop.
data centers and going complete cloud. And in that sense, Linux would be the winner because that's what you use in the cloud.
So you mean like a virtual desktop in Azure or something?
No, I mean, well, yes, things like that. Yeah, like
That's
VDI.
highly recommended for security for quite a while. I mean, then your data is not really on your device, which is a whole lot better.
Right. And then you don't have to manage any of the hardware anymore.
Right. Especially with everybody working at home on God knows what piece of infected crap, you know.
Well, yeah, and all the maintenance that comes with keeping up a data center locally.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the point of this? They're just saying everyone's going to have to learn how to secure Linux or what?
Yeah, because if we're going cloud native,
Mhm.
then you need to really understand Linux and be able to secure it. Because all your stuff is going to be on it, and you won't physically be able to run and pull the cable anymore.
And they're thinking about Log4j, of course. Okay. Like Heartbleed, it revealed the fact that Linux is not so secure.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember they talked about making the software bill of materials here too, which is certainly a good issue.
Yeah. Hey, on a side note, I did hear that Rust is the number 2 language now.
Yeah, Rust is now sort of approved, sort of provisionally approved, but not for all of Linux. They're just going to start writing like drivers in it, but their Rust is now sort of approved along with C as the appropriate language to write Linux in. So that's a step forward.
Cool.
Yeah. I heard on the San Francisco Radio Club last night, one of the guys got a project of coding stuff in Rust. So that's interesting. Anyway, all right. And so here's the one I used for a title. It was kind of hilarious, Cypherpunks. So NFTs let you put these images up and then sell them, and people can just take other people's images. So that's what these guys did. They took a bunch of security luminaries and cryptography luminaries and called them the Cypherpunks, and took like pictures you can find on Google of these people and made a group of like 20 of them and tried to put them for sale for like $4,000. And then a bunch of the people complained and said, I didn't authorize this. I don't want you selling my picture, especially not next to that other rotten guy who is no good. Quit it. And it's interesting to me because then they tried to quit it and they took it down, but somebody else put it up again. And then somebody bought some of them. They said, once you bought it, it's on the blockchain. We can't take it back. And also, I don't think they're under any legal obligation to take it down. I think if there's like a picture of you and somebody makes like a derivative of that, is that really a crime? Do you really have copyright over every picture of you find in Google? I think if this went to court, I'm not sure the complainer should really have an edge. Anyway, it does show one of the many problems with NFTs is people keep taking other people's art and putting it up as NFTs. And the process of putting it up does not include like getting some kind of notarized document certifying that you're the original author or anything. Nobody bothers with that. So it's all sort of a form of piracy. Anyway, people are getting all bent out of shape about the cypherpunks. And I mentioned this next one too while I'm here. Several people have been reporting that their LastPass master password has been stolen. They're getting emails from LastPass saying somebody in a foreign country tried to log in with your authentic password. And is that okay? And so they're trying to figure out where it came from. So they're all coming from the same IP address, and it's a company that has previously run phishing pages. So what they're thinking is these people all got phished somehow. Other people thought there might have been some breach at LastPass, or they somehow reused a password. But anyway, people are trying to figure it out. a large number of people have joined this Y Combinator Hacker News forum to say it happened to them too. It didn't happen to me. I'm using LastPass. But anyway, no one's gotten to the bottom of it yet. But it looks like they must have fallen for some kind of phishing attack.
I will plug Bitwarden since it's an open source
Yeah.
alternative to LastPass, and it's really good. So
Yeah, good. Yeah, I've heard that.
I also vouch for Bitwarden.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll move over, but as long as LastPass is still working, I'm not motivated. But all right, then Kaitlyn has got MUDB, which I tried to understand. What is the point of this thing?
Right. So I thought, Sam, this would be right up your alley, which is why I linked to it.
Yeah.
You've been saying for a while now that the blockchain is really good as a database, right? Like you want to throw up, like if you're doing banking and you want to make sure that all the transactions are recorded and you can't go back and you can't delete them,
right?
You would want like something like a blockchain.
Sure.
And this is like the first, I think, logical, tangible, useful application of the blockchain that is not have anything to do with grifting that I've ever seen. This is called MUDB. They're on version 1.21, so it's starting to get a little bit mature, and they started adding like GDPR stuff into it, and you can start using it in your businesses and stuff. I think version 1.0 came out like almost 6 months ago. So I mean, it's being actively developed, and the whole idea is that it's an immutable database. So you can add stuff to it, and it will do all the stuff you regularly see on the blockchain. So it will, do the crypto hashing and all that stuff. And if any of the records change, you will know it. It won't allow records to be changed. It's great for if you're like a bank or something. This is basically, like I said, the first useful application of the blockchain. Like if you have a business and you need records and you cannot have those records change over time,
yeah,
you can use this thing called MUDB, and supposedly it's also backwards compatible with other databases. So if you like want to also have like a Postgres backend or a MariaDB backend, it'll like work with those as well to create the immutable database. And I mean, this is fantastic. If you're in like one of those businesses, like I said, where you really need to keep records and you want to ensure that those records are not altered in any way over time, like you're a bank or you are doing financial records for the government or something like that.
Yeah.
This is your product.
Even security logs really should be immutable.
Yeah, absolutely. If you start keeping your logs in a database, MUDB. I mean, there's so many wonderful, this is just a new, novel, new type of database with a ton of applications that, you really might think like, is this something that my business, my enterprise, my organization can benefit from? And as you said, logs would be a great thing to put in here because they cannot be altered later on.
Yeah, okay. Just the thing that surprised me is I don't think it's new. It's nothing more than a proof of authority blockchain.
It is blocked. Like I said, it is the blockchain, but it is it is in a format that's actually useful and not a grift.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well,
sorry, NFT people.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
this is what so all the blockchain people. If you take away the grift, MUDB is everything they promised from the blockchain.
Well, yeah, that's what I think it is. Yeah, it's a non-distributed blockchain, which is what you call proof of authority.
Yes, exactly.
Bad thing. All right.
It is fantastic, and this is take away the grift, take away Victor Chaos, if anyone knows what I'm talking about there.
I don't know if
and this is what you get. You get MUDB. Oh, Irvin knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I finally saw those episodes.
Okay, good.
What's Victor Chaos?
Hey, it's Victor Chaos.
Victor K. So it's a Paramount put out and I don't want to do too much plugging of stuff I'm not being paid to plug, but Paramount Plus put out some South Park movies.
Oh,
and it's about the future, that's like post-COVID, and one of the characters named Butters was apparently grounded for 16 years and then became crazy and obsessed with NFTs and changed his name to Victor Chaos.
Well, that's good.
Yes. and just the blockchain was a huge grift for him. And, he just showed chaos wherever he went, trying to sell people NFTs. It's fantastic.
That sounds very appropriate. All right. And let's see, then Irvin has got toolkits, phishing tools.
Well, this article isn't as in depth as we normally like with this kind of stuff. This can be better framed as, hey, people, don't just because you have TUFA doesn't mean everything's safe. Still keep an eye out on what you're doing, because what if the site that is trying to use your TUFA isn't really the one, just like any fake site.
Well, so the issue is now people say SMS is not very safe because these kids can get in. Can these kids get in if I'm authenticated with like Google Authenticator?
Well, that's what the toolkits are trying to mimic, so that it can't trick.
So it tricks you. It puts up a fake login, so you give your code to the third party by accident.
Right.
That's a pretty good trick.
It's a pretty good trick.
So isn't that what HTTPS is supposed to prevent? Why doesn't it?
Because it's getting figured out.
All right. Evil Gen X. All right. All right. And all right, then I've got the 3D printed home, which is pretty great. They printed it in like just a couple hours, and all they did was print concrete about 1 inch deep around in what looks like a spiral, and you can see it in the structure of the walls. But this is Habitat for Humanity. They can now print a home with the cement, and you have a concrete home, which apparently is desirable, good thermal properties and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And they said she also gets with the house another 3D printer to print other things you might want, like electrical outlets and stuff. So that's cute.
Wait, made of complete concrete?
Yep, the walls are
Right.
concrete.
Right. So the way it works is that instead of extruding plastic, it extrudes wet concrete, which then they layer it on each other. And it's actually a very slow process. You know, it just goes around layer by layer. But it's almost like, if you ever seen one of bakers, when they put icing on the cake, they use those bags.
Yeah,
With a little funnel at the end. It's like that, except that it's like robotically controlled, and it just squirts concrete around and spirals, and it makes the walls of the building.
And you can see that the wall is not quite even. It's sort of like layers of bricks. You can see ridges where the concrete went by, but that's fine.
Yeah, it is FDM style printing, just with concrete, and
yeah,
I mean, it works.
Sure, seems like a good idea. And the other thing I thought was amazing is for-profit colleges would come back. See, under Obama, they pretty much got rid of for-profit colleges because they were all grifts, and a bunch of them got shut down because they mostly promise students you're going to get a job and get a pile of money, and then they give you really expensive training that puts you in debt, and then you don't get a job. And so they sued a bunch of them and shut them down. But then Trump got in, and Trump, of course, one of his big grifts was running a fake university, and he put in Betsy DeVos, who was a huge fan of these things. So they all came back. And like so many other things, the Biden administration has not reversed this. They have let the for-profit colleges continue to run, and they're doing all the grifting again. So on it goes.
I am a student of that thing that you described.
You were a student of one of these things?
Yep.
Well, tell us about it. Which one was it?
Mount Sierra.
Mount Sierra. And what was it like? Expensive? What happened?
Yeah, so it started with good intentions. There was a bunch of ex-DeVry teachers who hated the way DeVry did things, and they made their own college instead.
Mm-hmm.
But then they all left and sold it to some Chinese guy who then was like, all right, it's all about profits. So it went from being really good to a teacher would get paid one class, but actually teach 2 classes in the same block. And the teachers didn't care anymore because it was all, they were getting paid nothing, and the classes were useless. There was one Linux class that I had to take where the teacher just gave everybody a packet of paper. Like if it was kindergarten or first grade, you had to do the whole packet and show that you did it at the end. And it was simple things like making a folder or setting permissions. So I remember I had to get through it to finish my degree. So what I did, I would just flip to the end of the packet and just remake that. And the teacher just not even looked at it for 2 seconds, said, okay, you're done. I was like, yeah, this is a total absolute waste. The college, I got my degree the 2 semesters before the place shut down for good. But yeah, I still have that debt.
Yeah, this is what I've heard. They're mostly just scams where you get low
Yeah.
quality instruction and you can't really get a job with the credentials.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you go to a community college, at least it would be cheap.
Yep. I'm glad that I have my certs and I have my experience, so I'm not solely reliant
Yeah.
on that degree.
Yep.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah. The worst thing is people end up with a huge burden of debt from these things.
That's what I have.
Oh, that's no good.
Nope, not good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this one.
Well, no, we have three stories from Liz, and we
Well,
can go
actually,
through them because
You want to talk about them? I figured.
yeah, I'll talk about them really
Okay,
quickly.
go ahead then.
So Liz submitted 3 stories. I think they're pretty good, so I kind of want to go over them really quickly.
Actually, they
So
are pretty
what?
good. Yeah, one
Yes.
of them I wanted to do too. Go ahead.
Yeah. Which one? What was the one you wanted to do?
Oh, go ahead. Just start.
Okay.
Just start them.
Okay, so the Register has an article written by Simon Sherwood talking about how someone basically was using a Bluetooth COVID test, and apparently it uploads the results to the internet, which of course can be spoofed and read and faked and stuff like that. So
Well, it has to go.
That already sounded like bad news.
It can't go from Bluetooth straight to the internet, though. It has to go through your phone or something, right?
right. And so yeah, like I said, this isn't my article, it's Liz's, but apparently you can intercept the traffic, make it report whatever you want, fake the tests, good times.
So it did not use HTTPS on the Bluetooth, I guess.
Well, let me read the article. So as F-Secure probed the device and its companion app, its researchers spotted an unexported activity called com.illumhealth.covid something / activity, Bluetooth debug activity. Users with root level access to an Android machine can launch that activity to help interact and analyze over Bluetooth.
Right. So it's an API flaw, essentially.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Over Bluetooth at that.
Yep. And then they shared their work on GitHub. All right. So yes, so that was no good. The BBC has an article talking about how Alexa told a 10-year-old girl to put a penny in a plug socket.
Yeah.
So this I read myself. So this isn't who wrote this article. BBC doesn't have a name attached to it. It was written by the BBC. So the BBC has an article talking about how a 10-year-old girl asked Alexa for a challenge. And Alexa went on the internet and said, okay, little girl, here's what you should do. You should plug something halfway into a socket, grab a penny, and then touch the exposed metal with the penny. And of course, the mother was around and said, this is dangerous for some reason. I don't know why. Parents, they're just super cautious with their kids, And so the little girl didn't get to learn all about electricity.
Well, I thought it was great because I looked at the page it came from and I see what happened. The page said, parents, you should watch out for this dangerous challenge that goes like this.
Right, exactly. So basically what happened is that Alexa didn't really understand context. AIs rarely do understand context.
It saw the word challenge and then it saw some stuff and it said, okay.
Right. It just put challenge and everything together and said, okay, here's a page about a challenge. Now Alexa did not understand this is warning people about this challenge and said, no, you should totally do this challenge because this is what the web says is a challenge that people are doing.
I mean, how do you question the web?
Now, I remember.
No, how do you question our AI overlords?
Yeah.
Irvin?
I remember a few weeks ago, the same thing happened with Google. Somebody went on Google and said, what should I do when somebody is having a seizure? And it said, you should tie them up and hold them down and ram things down their throat and stuff, because they found a page that said, whatever you do, don't do these things.
Exactly. Yeah. So this has been an issue with AI. They just don't understand context. They don't understand that they are machines living in a human world or anything like that. They just kind of are able to, they're like insects. They go around, they know how to find things and bring them forth and do what they're told generally, but they make mistakes. They don't understand that they're making mistakes. So,
hey, did you see that video of a kid going up to an Alexa asking it, do reindeers fly? And Alexa straight up says no. So then the kid turns to their dad, who jumps out of his seat and goes, so then Santa's not real?
What did Alexa say to that?
Alexa didn't say anything other than just uttering, no, reindeers can't fly. And then the son and the kid have a big old fight over, well, Santa's not real now.
Well, my father explained to me why my parents never told me Santa Claus was real, because when he was a kid, this, which was, centuries ago, this was so common that everybody would conspire to tell kids that stuff was true. And he read Jules Verne and they told him it was true. And so he felt very, very betrayed when he found out it wasn't. He said, I'm not going to lie to my kid and tell him garbage like Santa Claus. And I'm surprised people are still doing that. It just seems like a terrible idea to me to lie to kids about things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, with Santa, there's always kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod, and kids kind of pick up on that usually, sometimes, usually. But yeah, no, don't lie to kids. That's.
No, I remember it being sort of an issue where the older kids would know it was fake and the younger kids would not know it's fake. And it was like I don't know, this seems like it's just going to destroy your trust in your parents.
Yeah, in general, I agree. Yeah, don't lie to your kids, people. If they have a question, be truthful with them, or just tell them, you'll explain to them when they're older or something, but don't lie. Don't
I
make
remember
stuff up.
hearing that a lot and finding that very frustrating. You'll understand when you get older. Anyway,
Just, Sam, just tell them that birds aren't real.
well, that's a different point. I mean, now that's important information. All right, and then we got tweeting without a computer.
Yes, finally,
most
now we
important
can
thing.
tweet directly from our thoughts. That's what we always wanted.
That's what we need. We need tweets to be even less considered. Everything you think should just go right out like Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly. Finally, we're here. This is the pinnacle of technology, the pinnacle of the web. So the Independent has an article written by Anthony Cutherson, talking about how this person had a direct thought tweet. So he had some implants to his brain, and apparently he has like ALS. So this was more of a, this was not like a experimental, like, oh, I'm going to tweet from my brain. This is more of a accessibility.
A prosthetic, yeah.
A prosthetic or accessibility
Yeah.
experiment. And so this person tested this prosthetic, was able to then send out tweets directly with his thoughts, which it brings up a whole new world of, having our brains and our thoughts transmitted to the whole world, which is just a fantastic and lovely idea to think about.
But actually, it is a huge step forward because the ALS people are so paralyzed they can't even talk. And they used to have them spelling out words one letter at a time by looking at the flashing screen. So in fact, being able to send a text message is pretty much the goal in ALS patients.
Right, exactly. So yeah, no, this is really good technology, and I'm glad to see it happening. It's just a wonderful framing of of it. So
yeah, I've been waiting for the Google chip for years. Sergey Brin said he's going to make a Google chip that goes right in your brain, and I said that would be awesome.
yes.
I'm going to the front of the line, but it hasn't happened yet.
Now, if only they can make prosthetic lasers that you can attach to your forehead.
Oh yeah,
That would be awesome.
the sky's the limit.
Yes.
But none of that's really happened. This is the closest, being able to tweet from your brain, and that's not really doing it for me.
Now, just turning my head into a weapons platform.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Then you're into Japanese animation stuff.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, I'm glad you brought it up. Those are good ones not to be skipped. All right. Well, then I think we're done, and we'll be back on Friday.
Oh, this apologizes. I just saw she was she's in the in our chat. She says she had stuff to do. All right.
Okay. And so we'll be back.
Hey, but Friday's New Year's Eve.
Well, I'll be here anyway, because I couldn't care less about any of that, but some of the rest of you might actually have a life or something.
No, we're all going to be here. This is so anytime there's a
Yourself.
holiday, anytime there's a holiday, this is when we have to meet. We have to do a podcast on every holiday.
Well, like I say, I'm not sure how many people will be here, but I certainly have no life, so I'll be here.
And we can do it at 5 a.m.
Y'all can do it at 5 a.m. because I have a very important meeting at 5 a.m.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Your bed doesn't count as a meeting.
Oh, it totally does.
Well, anyway, folks, I guess we will see you before then, but Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.